for us to get started on. So you just
Yeah,
mentioned that you went on a 15 game loss streak. I'm
I did.
curious just to pick that apart a little bit because obviously I would imagine you probably don't want to do that again.
No, wasn't fun.
Yep, wasn't fun. Over what course of time did that happen? Was that over like, 3 days, or was that over like a
Yeah,
week or two?
it was 3, 4 days, I think. Four,
Three, four
five at the
days.
most, but I want to
Mm.
say around 3 or 4.
3 or 4, gotcha. So 3 or 4 days, and is that like 3 or 4 sessions of playing comp? Did you play comp on all those days?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, in those 3, 4 days, it started from uh I mean I might have had like 0-1, 0-2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But then in that time frame just took loss after loss. And
Mm-hmm.
fortunately, I'm not the type of I don't get really tilted.
Mm-hmm.
I might get down, I might start lacking confidence in myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, second guessing, indecisive.
For
But
sure.
um yeah. I'm glad I don't get tilted because that's like the easiest way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And was it
but
and
yeah.
in that process, was it like exactly 15? Like, I mean, like in that play time, it was like 15 losses in a row. Were there any more in like the previous run too, or anything like that, or
I don't
afterwards?
think I don't think previously, but afterwards, I went 5-4.
5 and 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So then in that times, and was that in the same time span, or is that after, at like, a couple, even days afterwards too?
No, that was right after. So I
Mm.
jumped down to gold 1, and
Mm.
then I was just like, okay, screw it, let's requeue and
Okay.
keep pushing.
Gotcha.
And then yeah.
All right. Well, firstly, let's discuss. Obviously, we're going to get into a lot of different things on how you can improve your gameplay, and I'll analyze and see where, how you can be approaching the game, where you can be obviously winning more. But firstly, let's establish some good like playing habits of climbing and trying to maintain ranks and whatnot.
Uh-huh.
My recommendation. So this is just like the common term I use for it, but I'll explain. I'll define it in a second for you. But it sounds like it might be similar to tilt queuing, and that's not necessarily just I probably should find a better word for it, to be honest, but
No,
it's
I
not.
know what you're saying
Yeah.
though.
It's not necessarily just tilting. There's a lot of other things, and the general principle is that when you start losing, you kind of keep losing if you keep going with it, for
Right.
lots of different reasons. It could
And
be, it
not
could
cutting your losses.
yeah, exactly. Like it could be
Yeah.
that you're tired. It could be you're just having a bad day or two. It could be
Hmm.
that you are just going up against like harder opponents. It could be that you're, even like you said, even if you're not tilted, it could be that you're like maybe just a little bit upset, or your confidence is thrown off, or things like that. Usually it just puts you in a different mood when you're losing, maybe even like just in
Right.
that losing mindset. You're on game 10 and you're like, oh well, this I'm gonna be another one, right?
Yeah.
So my recommendations for how that can be hopefully mitigated is by setting limits for yourself. So
Uh-huh.
basically, make it so that you keep yourself accountable by saying if you lose 2 or 3 games in a row in a play session, then you're
Hmm.
taking a break. Maybe so that could be like, let's say you lose 2 games in a row, take like a 5 to 30 minute break. Go do something
Yeah.
else. Go to the bathroom, grab a snack. Go do something else. In the meanwhile, that just helps clear your head, gets you refreshed. It could even just help
Uh-huh.
help with eye strain and things like that.
Hmm.
And you come back in fresh and you try again. And if you lose another game or two, then be done for the day. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to completely stop playing Overwatch. That just means like you could, as other alternatives, you could play quick play or any other mode. You could
Yeah.
play comp on another role you don't care about as much. You could
Hmm.
play on an alternate account you don't really care as much about. But that will make it so that you're not just like going loss after loss, and you can still get practice time in.
Right. Kind of keep it fresh.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
that, and then if you're doing that on a consistent basis, that's going to turn like 5 losses a day into more like maybe you do like 2 or 3 losses in a row in a day. So then you have more days to work with. You have more time to kind of get that fresh start. And that is just going to overall help hopefully counteract long loss streaks. And then that means that you're still going on big win streaks and you're still getting your average, average ups and downs, but you're not necessarily going to have as many of the big long loss streaks where you just drop a whole rank.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so that would be my recommendation, is just try to set those limits for yourself. And even like sometimes you can identify early on, maybe before you even get to the third game, maybe you're on game 1 or 2 and you lose and you just go, oh, I'm just not feeling it at the moment. maybe i should
Uh-huh.
maybe I should step back for for the day, or for 30 minutes or something like that.
Right.
So it's just being
That makes sense.
self-aware and setting boundaries.
I like that.
All right, cool.
It's funny because I totally knew I was
Mm,
doing that, like just kind of autopilot queuing,
mm,
queuing,
mm,
queuing without kind of reflecting or, just ignoring what just happened rather than kind of
mm,
learning from it.
mm.
Um, so I like that, kind of like a three strike system.
Yeah, exactly. All
Yeah.
right. Well, we can go ahead and get started. I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to
Yeah.
talk about.
Let's do it.
So I'm gonna turn up volume here.
Are you streaming? I can't see.
Oh, yep, I am streaming. Is my face covering it?
I think so. Oh, there we go.
Yep. There you go.
All right.
All right. Cool. All right. So, let's think about something like really, really briefly. Not the
Mhm.
biggest end of the world, but let's think through something briefly like the sleep. I would be wary about using a sleep like this, because he is very far away, and you can see that they're on a Doomfist. So we might want to be thinking about the fact that they might be on like a dive composition, right? But even if which they are, they have a Tracer and a Kiriko and a Doomfist, and
Uh-huh.
but even if they were just on Doomfist, let's say they just had a Doomfist, the rest of them kind of make this, add to the point. But let's say they just had a Doomfist, and the problem is that this is a like really long and hard shot, as well as the fact that you have a really long 14-second cooldown on your sleep. And
Uh-huh.
even if we land the sleep on Doomfist, the question becomes, how much value are we getting out of that sleep?
Right.
Because even if we land the sleep up on Doomfist here, I don't know if we have anybody in position to even like get the kill on him, because maybe like you land an anti-nade, you have Sojourn there, but I think
Mhm.
that Doomfist probably just wakes up from it and gets away,
Right.
most likely. And on top of that, Doomfist, if he just wakes up, that's only a 2-second stopper. So now we have 12 more seconds where we're just left completely vulnerable, or
Right.
pretty vulnerable. So if Doomfist dives you here, we don't have sleep available. So I would just be sometimes you want to think about like, if I do land this, am I gonna get value even if I do land this sleep? So if
Mhm.
this would be different if Doomfist was like in the middle of your team, like if he was like right down next to your Reinhardt. This is it's probably a bit different, right? You can probably get a lot more
Yeah.
value. But you also you want to be careful about just throwing it out there, especially if they're on a dive comp, because you usually want to be a little bit more reserved using it defensively, if they're on dive, because you want to be careful about like the Tracer sneaking up on you and the Doomfist jumping on you, and you want to usually have
Yeah.
that ready to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but like I said, that's not like a end of the world thing. Just a note. But now you can see like Doomfist on top of you, and it's still 5 seconds away.
Right. I'm definitely a habitual panic sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
Or not necessarily panic, but it's like I don't really take the extra second or something. If I am going to use it, I don't take that extra second to like kind of
Think about it.
help dial it in. Well, yeah, think about it
Mm,
and try to, actually land it.
mm-hmm.
It's like I almost try to quick scope with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, or like kind of just like it's quick and like kind of autopiloting.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because then we're even here, like we're maybe we don't die, but our sojourn dies because we don't have this thing
Right. It helps save
available.
her. Yeah.
Yeah, so good, decent name. Could be we could have put it on the sojourn too. Minor
Uh,
minor thing, but big thing is maybe don't have sleep available. Oh, and then we're dead too. All right. All right. Just trying to sleep earlier could be big here. Um, but that's really the main thing.
so here, it's like I'm not sure what to do because our tank's
Mm-hmm.
not here yet, and so I'm not
Yeah,
quite
just
sure
poking.
what the player's intentions are. And then
Yeah.
this, I'm bad about. So I'll like kind of chase somebody who's kind of
Mm,
injured, and in the meantime, it
mm-hmm.
takes me away from all the other players.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, I find myself between my team and a
Yep.
wall.
S
Um,
So here it would be much better just to wait over in this position. Now you're trying to chase the Junkrat, but obviously from this position the problem is that you're just out of the fight and the fight's
right.
starting, right? Like everyone else is in there and we're just so
Yeah.
far away and we can't see anybody. So
Right.
the analysis needs to be made like right here where he goes
hmm
around this corner. Oh, I
He's
can't see
very
him
obviously
anymore.
going that way.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So now we just need to just back up and go back to the right, and then that way we can actually keep helping and participating in the fight.
Right. I think my thought process was I'm gonna go help him make that off angle.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole time I was getting anxiety because I wasn't involved in the fight, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good sleep. Okay, so um, let's think about this. So fights kind of starting back up. They kind of back out. They're coming back in. Tracer's here. Doomfist's here. Okay, so they're all regrouped up and they're coming back in.
Uh-huh.
Firstly, let's think about the positioning. We're kind of like we have cover, so this isn't like horrible positioning. We have cover.
No.
Usually
But
when
if I have to peel, then
mm-hmm.
I'm toast.
Yeah. So usually when it comes to positioning, especially support positioning, you want to basically check off as many different boxes as possible because there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
different things that make positioning good. So here, for example, we have checked off, we have cover, right? We're with our team. That's also pretty good, right? Especially if they're on a dive. Being with your team is pretty
Uh-huh.
handy. But then there's other things like having kind of visibility over the fight, which maybe could be a hair better. Being able to land abilities effectively, that's going to be pretty
hmm
decent from here, right? That's gonna, that's going to be pretty good. Do you have like health pack availability? That's a minor point. Do you have escape routes? That's another option to think about. Do you
That's a fat
have
no.
yeah, do you have high ground? Do you have which usually you have to make sure the high ground's in the fight first, right?
Right.
Do you have yeah? Can you like put the enemy out of your line of sight? So there are a couple things to think about. So you could be here. It could also probably just be I'd say like up here checks off a lot of those same boxes,
hmm
where you just kind of put a little bit more range between you and them. It gives you a little mini high ground, gives you pretty good visibility over the fight. You do have a health pack to work with. You do have cover to work with. You're not going to get as easily flanked. Like if Tracer just like runs around here, look how easily
Right.
Tracer can get on you here. But if you're up here, it's a little bit easier to like or harder for them to get to you, and then you can still kind of like drop to your team if you need to,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So that's like one thing is that like that probably checks off like a few more boxes. Um, Doomfist comes in and he ults. What is something we could be doing really easily out of Doomfist's ult?
Um, diving the squish or kind of attacking the others.
Doomfist can. What's something that you can do to like shut him down from doing that?
Getting ready for sleep.
Exactly. So when Doomfist ults, more or less he's you know where he's landing. You know where he's gonna be. So it's
Uh huh.
pretty simple to go and line up that shot. Like if we're listening and watching, you see that bolt down from the sky. He's gonna land there, and he's
Uh
gonna
huh.
basically be stunned for like half a second to a second, and you know that he's gonna be there, which means that you can line up and land that sleep pretty decently right when he lands and as he's charging up that punch, which means that if we're watching for that, we can shut him down before he even lands
And
that punch on
yeah,
Kiriko.
and that would have saved the Kiri.
Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
think I was just so relieved he wasn't targeting me that I just kind of forgot.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, yeah, as an anime, you know, whether it's Bastion's ult or his
Mm-hmm.
ult, I'm an easy target.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you do that same thing with like a lot of that same principle applies to a lot of other things like Diva when she's trying to remech, Reinhardt when he's getting out, like when he's in the middle of his charge or when he's getting out of his charge, right?
Uh-huh.
He's gonna be kind of in a straight line, things like that, where like you know where they're going. Okay. That's
That's a bad fight. I'm just in the wide open.
yep. So deaths obviously are things we want to take a look at because that's we're dying a ton, we're not doing anything. So
Right.
first death was not using sleep and maybe could have dropped to our team a little bit sooner. Second death, right, is wide out in the open, like you said, and then also what's something else we could have done here?
Slept at Doom.
Slept the doom, right? So now that's second time we could have used sleep and we didn't. So we're just gonna keep an eye on that, see if any patterns keep up.
Nice whiffs.
Good ear. Ooh, beautiful.
That one felt good. I was hoping the Kiri was going to come help, but then
Are you
I
pinging
kind of
it?
panicked because, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was worried that she wouldn't come help, so then I just went ahead. I knew I wouldn't kill her. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, if you ping, if you like, I would spam ping it. Just go bing 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 bing. If you did spam ping it, and then there's nothing else that you can do to get your teammates to look at it besides calling it in chat. Um,
Right.
so communication is like the first thing here. But after that, do we gotta watch the tossing the nade because if she is recalled, nade's not gonna you're not gonna get her in time.
Right.
So it's
So probably
worth
just
it to just
conserve that
save it.
there.
Yeah, exactly. I'd shoot her, like get a shoot melee, and you know that she's just gonna recall out of it. So
Right.
I just hold on to the nade. Well, it's good that she backed up afterwards, but could have been scarier if she stayed on you, or if you need nade in a couple seconds here.
Right, because immediately this big fight happens and I don't have it.
Mm-hmm. Nice shot. Notice. Oh, there you go. Okay.
I swear that wall.
Probably a little bit delayed to throw the nade because you can see that they're kind of you have some people who are low. You can see
Right,
that they're
right there was,
all clumped
yeah.
up, right? So
Oh,
you can see that they're all clumped up for it. So we're a little bit slow to throw it, and then we also like just end up hitting the wall with it too because we peek and chuck it.
yeah.
So maybe taking a hair longer to just line up the shot. Well, I'll show you some text as well that can be handy. Okay. Reinhardt, yep, that's a pretty good spot for a nano. I don't think you have any really significantly better nano combo. I mean, you have like overclock, but that's not massively significant, and then he also saved him from dying. Uh oh.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It is. Yeah.
go ahead. Hmm.
It was kind of like a half panic nano, and I knew I didn't have my nade, so
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if I could save him or not. And the other thing I'm pretty bad about is kind of keeping track of what the other healer's doing, who they're working
Mm-hmm.
with, where's their position, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously we need to help each other, and especially as
Mm-hmm.
Kiri, I guess she can get to me easily, but I can't get to her.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that's just a little bit of awareness to think about.
Yeah.
All right. Here with Doom Ult, no, excuse me. Here with Doom Ultimate, not sure if we hear it or see it or if we're paying attention, but if you're kind of trying to dodge it, just um, make sure to be aware of where it's land. Pretty much as long as you're not in the center of it, you're gonna stay alive at least through the first bit
Yeah.
of it. So you just want to
I'm
be
pretty sure I
aware.
walked right into it.
Yeah, exactly. So just being aware of where he's going, and um, trying and just jump. The other thing I think is jumping as well. So getting out of the
Uh-huh.
center and jumping helps reduce your damage because you're getting out away from the point of impact. So maybe you can chalk up a little bit more of that to awareness. Um, Good important things. So this is kind of like improvement, right? This is the improvement cycle, and we've seen like a few deaths that maybe could have been easily prevented,
Hmm.
and obviously we want to improve on that. In the improvement cycle, this is how I climbed from silver when I first started playing Overwatch to then top 50, top 100 a couple times, things like that. And I made this climb basically off of this methodology, and that is that you're going to, while you're playing, you can do this out of game or in game. You can do it like in your own replays, or you can do it in between rounds, in between deaths, in between games, where you think to yourself, what was my mistake? What was my issue within the mistake? What was the solution to the mistake? And how can I apply that to my game? I can put this into terms of like deaths here, because deaths are the easy example for it. But you also have a lot of other different mistakes, such as letting your teammates die, not getting a kill, misusing your abilities and ultimates, things like that. But let's
Hmm.
think deaths. Obviously, deaths are the mistake. That's the mistake we're identifying. But we can't just leave it there, because if I came into the coaching session and I said, "You're dying too much," and then I said, "All
Yeah.
right, we're wrapped up. All right, we're all good." You probably wouldn't leave me a very great review. I wouldn't really foresee a tip.
Yeah.
But you want to take to the next step and think, what's the issue within the mistake? So you want to think, why did you die? What are some common reasons why people die? We've already mentioned a few of them.
Um, over like kind of not using their cooldown. Well, I guess we already talked about that, but like
Hmm.
not having cooldowns to be defensive.
Yeah, so
Um,
kind of misusing abilities. So it could be
right.
not using them, or using them in the wrong timing, or missing them, things like that.
Hmm. Maybe egoing. Um,
What would egoing entail?
kind of like as a well, rather than peeling, maybe you push forward a little bit as
Mm.
DPS or
So
support.
maybe like
Um,
overextending. That,
yeah,
that could be a good word to define it.
like taking a 1v1 that you shouldn't.
Hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yep. Other ones could be like poor positioning, so being like smack dab in the middle of the open, or lack of awareness, not noticing the Doomfist who's slamming you, or a Tracer sneaking up behind you, or the Kiriko on top of you, right? Things like that.
Hmm.
Um, could have something like poor mechanics, like if or movement, like if you're just kind of walking in a straight line, standing still, or even losing a duel and missing your shots, things like that.
Hmm.
All right, so now that we have that, you want to analyze, think, why did I die, and what are the things that keep popping, what are the things that keep happening, what mistakes, when you're looking at mistakes, you want to think, what are the consistent ones, and what are the highest impact ones, what are the ones that are because you can have tiny mistakes and you can have big mistakes, right? So you want consistent, high impact mistakes, and usually those are the ones that you want to get out, get in front of and work on first.
Right.
Then you kind of work from there. So you have mistake, issue within the mistake. Solution is pretty simple. It's usually just the opposite. So if you're dying because you weren't paying attention, well then paying attention is the solution. If you're dying
Yeah.
because you were out in the open using cover, easy solution, right? And
Hmm.
then next is application. And application, maybe we've already talked about a couple things, so we can talk about that. You put this stuff into practice by making sure that while you play, you're not just coming into your games and just playing to play or autopiloting, but you're going to actively focus on the thing you're trying to work on. So that means that you pick something out, like, for example, let's say awareness, right? Because you just died to Doom for awareness, right? So let's say awareness real quick, and you think to yourself, awareness, 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 pay attention, look around, look around, look around, listen, listen, listen. And when you give yourself that constant stream of reminders to pay attention to your surroundings, well, you'll probably pay attention to your surroundings a little bit more than you did before. And that will
Huh.
mean that your awareness is better than it was before. And then
Huh.
as you do that for a long enough period of time, that forms it as a habit because you've kind of hammered it in. And then you don't need to really focus on it as much. It just comes more naturally. It'll just happen.
Right.
And then you can move on to the next thing, and that's your improvement cycle. And then also just make sure you're not trying to work on too many things all at the same time. That'll get
Yeah.
overwhelming. So pick like one category of things or 1 to 3 smaller things within a category. Is all that make sense? Any questions?
It does make sense. It makes very clear sense.
All right.
So much so it almost hurts.
All good, all good. Yeah, that's the way to go about it in Overwatch, and then also that's very cool improvement cycle that works for a lot of other things as well, other games, other things in life.
Right.
It's a good methodology for general improvement.
I need a giant neon sign that just says reflect.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's keep going. All right. So we're coming out
So here I go for
here.
high ground.
Yep, I like this
But I'm kind of
position.
thinking myself here, it's like this high ground is kind of pointless just because there's
Mm-hmm.
Doom and he can easily dive me and, knock me
Mm-hmm.
off or force
Mm-hmm.
me off.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Well, high grounds are still handy for a couple reasons, even if they do have a Doomfist, right? Because yes, Doomfist can get to you, but taking high ground does a couple things. Firstly, if you're on the low ground, well then not only can Doom get to you, but who else can get to you now?
the rest of the others,
The rest of the
the
other
rest of the
team,
team.
right? The
Yeah.
rest of their team can
Yeah.
get to you. And the other thing is, what does Doomfist need to expend to get to you on the high ground,
His launch jump thing,
right? So
his charge, his punch.
characters that can get to you on the high ground usually, with some exceptions, usually need to expend cooldowns to get to you. And
Right.
it also, for other characters, usually takes them longer to get to you as well. Like, so, Trace will need to go find the stairs and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, and or Sojourn, right, needs to go and use her leap. And then even if Doomfist does get up to you now, so that's a couple things already. That's better, that's better for you. You're also from the high ground. You can still contest them, right? You have sleep as an option, and then if all else fails, you can just drop and run away, and you have a health pack right underneath you. You have the ability, if you're depending on where your team's at, I'd presume they're like somewhere in this vicinity here, right?
Hmm.
You can probably go and get to your team. If you see your whole team's like a mile away from you and Doomfist is about to come contest you, maybe you can start getting to them earlier. But high ground's also really good because it gives you visibility, right? So you can see all of this whole point. You can see all of the high grounds. But let's say we're
Right.
like in the same spot on the low ground. Well, now like we don't even see all of this side over there, and you can't see any of this high ground above you, and you have limited visibility of the high grounds in front of
Hmm.
you. So you have better visibility on high grounds. You also have a lot. It's natural cover as well, right? When you're on high grounds, you have the ability to back up away. So back up away from the ledge. So Sombra sees you, you back up. Sombra
Right.
can't see you, right? So high ground's pretty good for a lot of different reasons. Not an end-all be-all statement. It's a general rule of thumb. There will of course be
Hmm.
situations where you drop and rotate, and where you might position closer to the fight and things like that. But I still think that this is pretty good, even if they have the Doomfist. That all makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Because if he comes and jumps on you, I just try to use the sleep. Be prepared and ready for it, right? Team comp
Hmm.
dictates playstyle, right? So if they're on double sniper, maybe you're focusing on positioning a bit more, making sure you're using cover, not wandering through the open.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned from
Mm-hmm.
ML7. He said one
Mm-hmm.
thing to think about is who can kill me in one shot. If they have
Mm-hmm.
a Hanzo, Widow,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's not anything you have to worry about at all if they're on a divey team comp, right? Flanky.
Right.
Because now you don't have to worry about as much. You still have to worry about positioning, but not as heavily on cover.
Sure.
But now you have to worry about watching the flanks and being now awareness is a bigger issue where you got to look
Hmm.
left, you got to look right, you got to keep your ears open, you got to be paying attention to your surroundings. And then if you know Doomfist is coming, that means that sleeping him is that much easier than if he just like jumps on you out of nowhere, right?
Right.
Um, then on top of that, you have other things like even minor things like even specific characters change it. Like they're on a mercy, right? Never ever have to worry about dead bodies until they got a mercy, and then you gotta watch dead bodies because then you can very very easily, if you're watching for a dead body, you can guard it and maybe put a sleep on the mercy as she's trying to res, right? And then
Hmm.
that shuts down a free res, as well as probably killing the mercy too, in a lot
Yeah.
of situations.
That's one thing I'm bad about is paying attention to the reses.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So something that helps with that is actively paying attention to how team comp dictates your play style, and as just I can't obviously see while you're playing here, but if you're not already doing it, you should be pressing tab, usually at least at the very minimum once between every fight, because then you
Hmm.
get an update. Did they swap anything? Did we swap anything?
I have
Things like
gotten
that.
better about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
I never thought about it like that, how the team comp dictates play style. That's a
Mm-hmm.
great way of phrasing it.
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, that's just unfortunate.
Yeah. Trying to hit the wall.
Yep, so we land the sleep on Doomfist. It's a good, I, do. You
I
could
feel like I shouldn't have
maybe,
jumped there.
yeah, you can maybe give it like a second to see, like, maybe like your Sojourn comes and slides up to high ground with you, right?
Hmm.
Maybe Moira jumps up with you, right? That sort of thing. So maybe you give it like a second to see, do I get team support, and then you drop. Especially since you land the sleep. If you miss the sleep, I drop right away, right? So it's not a horrible drop, but
It,
maybe
it,
you
it,
could see.
it's funny. I do this exact same uh, kind of passive, panicky drop down of high ground in the other replay. The exact
Mm-hmm.
same thing, except I didn't use my sleep there. I just,
Mm-hmm.
I just heard him and I dropped for whatever reason. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because look, because your Sombra's up there, right? So
Right.
maybe between and Toonfist is even now Sombra's on him, so he's not even looking at you. So if you were up there,
Right.
maybe it's
Nade
like,
hack.
yeah, it's nade hack. You can help heal your Sombra, and then like I
Hmm.
said before, you even have the option of like other teammates coming and joining you too. Okay. Good heals.
Oh, I definitely let a teammate die. Well, not, yeah, from whiffing, I think.
With the sleep, nice shots. What is so right here? Let's just think. Okay, so we get the tap. Okay, so Tracer recalls, right? So now we're caught between Doomfist on one side, Tracer on the other side, and right now, right, efficiency calls for completing your tasks as quickly as possible, because the longer we drag it out, the longer we drag out what we're doing, the more time your teammates aren't getting healed, right? So if we're chasing Tracer around for 10 seconds, that's 10 seconds that you're not healing the rest of your teammates. So when Doomfist kills Sojourn, there's going to be an issue, there's an issue that you didn't, look at Sojourn, or you weren't able to heal Sojourn. So maybe we could have glanced around real quick to heal Sojourn, but I'm more so concerned at right at this point here, where you have some options to work with, and what is a really easy option that you can quickly shut down either Doomfist or Tracer, shut them down completely, so that you can then either focus on healing teammates or killing Tracer. I can rephrase the question if I need to.
Yeah, can you rephrase that?
Yeah. What is something you can be doing right now to shut down either Doomfist or Tracer that would allow you to do something else with your time, either healing your team or killing Tracer?
Pressing shift.
Yeah, sleeping someone, right?
Sleeping him. Yeah.
Sleeping
and Doom's probably the easier target.
Yep. So if you sleep Doomfist right now, well then that means that you can, one, help kill Doomfist, but two, you can now turn around and shoot at Tracer and not worry about Doomfist killing your Sombra, right?
Right.
But the problem is that we don't on either of them. But this also works the same way if we sleep Tracer. If we sleep Tracer, then we can turn around and heal Sombra, and we can probably also, maybe kill Tracer because he doesn't have recall, right?
Right.
But the problem is that we don't use sleep. We miss nade, and we just turn around and just shoot her normally, and that just is extra time that Doomfist uses to kill, or so I guess actually Sojourn uses it to kill Sombra.
Yeah.
But
I was kind of thinking about that when it was happening. Once again, I was kind of getting anxiety from not being involved in the big fight because Sombra was taking all of my time, all of my attention.
Yep, for sure. And part of that, using sleep here can be just, quicker on the draw to make sure that you have more actions per minute, that you're doing things. So yeah, if you're in the middle of a fight, don't be afraid to use it, because that can it could either take pressure off of you or take pressure off of your teammates.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we use it there, but it's unfortunately
it's another quick scopey kind of I don't even take the time on that.
Yep. So let's talk after this fight. We're gonna go to the training range. We're gonna talk abilities for a bit. Yeah.
See, there I didn't. So that's another big thing, is my issue of looking to my bottom right, looking at cooldowns, looking at ammo, knowing when to reload, rather than just reloading when I have to. Because right there, that's the reason why the Moira died, is I had to reload.
Okay. Wait, I didn't notice that one. Where's that at? Moira.
Right here. So I used my last shot right there.
Yeah. I was looking at the res. I didn't see that. Yeah. So that can be reload habits, right? So it can be reloading sooner, because you want to reload any time you got a lull in time where there's nothing else better to do.
Right.
Right, is when you're reloading. And then if you get better habits of that and you're doing it more consistently, then you won't have as many of those times, so you just don't have any ammo to work with. Oh, pretty good jukes. I like that. Okay. Yep, whiffed. You can notice, we kind of do a big flick, but we're also kind of aiming down low with it, so she just kind of jumps over it too. So we're aiming.
I noticed.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
What were you saying?
The very first one of the game, the Doomfist, I also aimed low on that one. I don't know if there's some sort of tendency there.
Yeah, so a little bit low. We also seem to flick past her pretty quick, which isn't. I mean, she is jumping around on top of you, so I can understand flicking a little bit. But like you said, it does seem a little bit rushed. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. But nice shot. Overall, pretty good general mechanics. I like that you land your shots when you're shooting to heal.
Well, first of all, thank you. But the other thing is, I've been struggling with confidence after that. That 0-15. and kind of before and after it, I've been tweaking my sensitivity between.
Mm-hmm.
I do 800 DPI, but then I was at 4.5% for the longest time,
Mm-hmm.
and then jumped around to 5, down to 3, up to 6,
Mm-hmm.
and then back to currently 5%, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so there's some of that you can kind of see going on with this, but that's
Mm-hmm.
not really an excuse though, because I did like the 5% and I still do.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt already comfortable with it.
Gotcha.
But I
Mm-hmm.
just figured that should be
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, mechanic. I mean that might if you were you doing that in the middle of the launch streak or at afterwards?
Kind of in the middle.
That could have been something that it was another factor to impact it because when you're obviously
Right.
gonna be adjusting and that can affect your games if you're missing more shots than you usually do.
Hmm.
So that would make sense that it would add to it on top of you already being on a loss streak. But yeah, it's just you find something that you like and you stick with it, and that those I think 5 and 800 was what I had for a very long time until I got like a slightly smaller mouse pad.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, that sounds like a great sensitivity to me. It's literally the exact sensitivity I had for a long time. Um,
Sweet.
so I would just stick with it and whatnot. Yeah, keep practicing at it. But overall, general mechanics look pretty decent. Not perfect, but no one is. Okay. Nade available, right? Okay. So, and that's something to note is that's now like death number, 3, maybe 4 that we had abilities available that could
Hmm.
have helped stop us from dying that we didn't use, right? All right. Abilities. Let's talk about how you can use them. Abilities on Ana are a big part of how you can kind of get carry potential, right? If you're just kind of doing your business, going and healing people, like you can get a lot of value out of that, but a lot of the time, just normal base healing is kind of how you do your job. But on Ana, you landing big abilities is going to be how you can sway fights and win games.
Right.
So when it comes to your abilities, let's talk a few things. Firstly, we already just kind of discussed before in our application process, but don't always just fling out your abilities. You don't want to just you don't want to kind of go shoot, 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 and then nade, and then shoot, 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 and then sleep, right? You don't want to
Right.
always have your abilities be spur of the moment. They definitely can be, and as you get better with them, they will be more like that. As you'll naturally just see the opportunity, and there are some times where you need it to be quickly. Like for example, let's say like there's a Genji blading on top of you. You don't really have time to like slowly line that up, right?
Right.
But in situations where that's not the case, take a little bit to line up your shots. You can be thinking about your abilities before you even have them on cooldown, right? Like they can be like, off cooldown. You got 12 seconds to work with, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, I see group of people I want to go for. I'm autopiloting everything else. Okay, I see them. I'm rotating. I'm lining up my shot. I'm throwing my nade, right? Where you're taking some time thinking about it, making sure that making sure you're putting some effort into the abilities instead of just kind of chucking
Right.
them out. Now let's talk about a bunch of different techniques. That's kind of a little bit of the how. Let's talk about a lot of different techniques that can help you land more efficiently. For Nade has a lot more general techniques than Sleep does. Nade, firstly, I would generally don't try to hit people directly with nade. If you try to hit people directly and you miss, well, then it just kind of goes sailing past them.
Right.
But instead, you want to hit the ground in between as many people as possible, because then you get
Right.
the splash that hits a giant radius. Because the
Mhm.
problem is it can go sailing past them, or they can even body block it from hitting people behind them, and then you get less people. But if you hit the ground in between them, then it explodes and hits more of them, and it'll be more consistent. Right? You'll land it more frequently. You can also,
Mhm.
if there's no ground to work with, you can hit ceilings, you can hit walls, right, as different options to work with. And the other thing is you want to actively watch for when people group up, because then you'll get more value out of your nades, right? the more the merrier, right? More value, the more people are grouped up. So don't just try to. A lot of our nades are like single man antis, right? Which aren't terrible, right? Those are still valuable, but not nearly as valuable as 2, 3, 4, 5 man anti nades, or even getting a heal and an anti, right? You're gonna
Yeah.
find value out of getting more people. So wait for people to group up. During a fight, you'll notice a team will kind of congeal and come together, and then they'll spread out, and then they'll come together, and then they'll spread out. It'll kind of just naturally, it's the natural ebb and flow of a fight. So just keep your
Yeah.
eye open for that.
Um, I have a question regarding with having a Kiri on the other team and kind of finding the balance of, baiting out her Suzu, um, with maybe sleep or paying it, or maybe using anti to bait it out. You can use, some other ability from another teammate. And kind of finding that balance of like, I want to bait her Suzu and she used her Suzu. I'm going to use Nade now.
I would, generally speaking, I would say, like, for the most part, you're gonna find it's more helpful to just wait for her to use it, because it's going to be it's gonna be pretty easy for her to just counter your nade and sleep and stuff like that if you just
Right.
use it otherwise. But you have a lot of other options to work with, and we can talk about obstacles like that really quickly. Apologies, I'm gonna put a pin in that for like 1 second, and then I'll come back to
Oh,
it.
totally.
But let's talk about obstacles in general, because Suzu is like an obstacle. It's something that can stop your ability from working. And there's a lot of other obstacles, right? There's teammates that can get in front
Oh,
of
yeah.
stuff. There's enemies, and they can body block it. Tanks can do that, or they have tanking abilities and shields and stuff like that. And then even, like you said, defensive abilities, right?
Yeah.
So different things. Firstly, teammates. You can firstly you want to be aware of the obstacles, and then a lot of them are pretty easy to bypass. Teammates, walk to the right, walk to the left, walk forwards, walk back and throw it. Oh, I still missed it. Walk back and throw it over, or just wait for them to move out of the way. Right, just be aware of them.
Yeah.
Enemies and their shields and tanking abilities and even defensive abilities. You have a lot of options. You can, for shields and stuff like that, you can wait for the shield to break. And that would be the equivalent of wait for Suzu to be used, right? Wait for them to break or for it to go down. Wait for the character to die. You can throw it to the left of the shield, to the right of the shield, underneath the shield, over the shield. You can throw it at people who aren't behind the shield. This would be the equivalent of, for Suzu, you can throw it at people who are nowhere near the Kiriko. And maybe that just like is going to make it so that Kiri's not able to get to them in time with it, right? If they're on the other side of the map. You can, and then back to Suzu, right? You can wait for it to use it. You can wait for your teammates to bait it out. You can use, if like you said before, like if you can maybe use one ability to bait the other. If you don't have any divers to watch out for, you're pretty much going to be using your abilities all the time, off cooldown, if they don't have anything to contest you. So maybe you use your sleep to bait it out, and then you land the big fat nade after they get Suzu'd, right? Other thing could be like, do they actually have? Does your team actually have any like big ultimates? Like if you have a big ultimate, maybe you try to land your ability to bait out Suzu for your ultimate, or you can use the ultimate or the teammate's ability to bait out Suzu for you, right? To use. Other things with obstacles that can get in the way, shields and other things, right? If this is the enemy team, this is your team, right? This is where your main angle. This is shields and abilities and tanks, and if you try to chuck it through here, you have so many obstacles, right? You can do it. You could land an ability. It's just going to be a headache, and it's going to be inconsistent, right? It's going to be hard. But it's very easy to bypass all this just by doing something like this, where we just got around all of our teammates, all the shields, all the abilities, straight to their back line with a nade and a sleep, and it's very quick, and it's very safe because we can get back to our team. And this is what you call an off angle. It's just a different angle from the main angle.
That reminds me of Attack on King's Row.
Yep, exactly. It's a really good
Yeah, that left side.
hotel, right? Is a good example of an off angle, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, Enemy team, your team, main angle. You back up, you heal, heal, heal. You come up to high ground real quick, right? Land the nade, land the sleep, heal, heal, heal. Very safe, very quick. And high grounds usually act as off angles as long as we're above them. If they're like all the way over there, they can still kind of shield you though, right?
Hmm.
But high grounds once again, good off angles, good visibility from up here. Just don't do like flanks where you just like go all the way around and all the way around. Usually flanks are longer and more dangerous. Ana
Yeah.
can't really do that. Tracer and Soldier, who are quick and have survivability, they can do that
Hmm.
perfectly fine. Right, so that's gonna be how you can get around obstacles. That makes sense,
Yeah, I think so.
right? Nade tech, real quick. This is going to be landing mid to long range nades. This tech only works if you are scoped in. It does not work if you're unscoped at all. So you gotta scope in. You take your
Oh,
ult charge and you line that up with an enemy, and you throw your nade.
wait, what?
Yep, and that nade's gonna hit them from any height or any range you're at. I just wouldn't use it if you're right on top of somebody. Um,
Wait.
Here, notice we're on even footing and they're on like a slope here. So I'm
Uh-huh.
going to line up like the Q instead with them. So I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
wait for them to get in there, or they can turn around Q.
Dude. Huh? Okay, that alone. I never knew that.
Gotta love the reactions. That's one of my favorite tips to share because the reactions range from like like oh cool to like oh my
Yeah.
goodness what
Yeah,
the
just mind blown. Wow.
I didn't find out that tech until after I'd like already peaked and it was done peaked on Ana and was done playing her, so that made me
Well,
very
you can brag
sad.
about that then. Yeah, I didn't need that.
Yep. All right.
Wow.
Let's get to the main points, wrap up and review.
Yeah.
You'll have notes as well that'll kind of summarize this as well. But
Beautiful.
abilities, put effort into them. So we just talked about like all the ability stuff, so I'm not going to rehash it. But effort,
Hmm.
all the different nade techs we just talked about. Watch for your obstacles, off angles, right?
Hmm.
Um,
And can I add something to that?
mhm.
So it seems like on dive comp being more aware of cooldown usage versus positioning, but like you said, positioning it's always important. But putting an emphasis on cooldown
Yep.
usage,
And
whereas on like a pokey kind of snipey comp, then you can just kind of use them off cooldown.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
positioning is the emphasis.
Yep, exactly. And
Okay.
and that's gonna be something you want to watch out for is potential for what's the word I'm looking for? Pressure. Potential for pressure versus actual pressure. So potential for pressure is what comp are they on? Like, do they have divey, flanky characters? Because they could have one Genji or an entire dive comp, right? And there's going to be a difference in the potential for pressure. And then there's actual pressure. Are they actually diving you, right? If they have a dive comp, you're going to have a lot of potential for pressure, but if they've never dived you once the entire game, well then, why are you holding on to your abilities still, right?
Right.
And then they could have one Genji, but if Genji's on you all the time, well then you probably want to hold on to your abilities. And it also can be scalable. So you start off by just rotating your abilities, right? If you have a little tiny bit of pressure, you rotate them. So I use nade, I wait half of the cooldown, and then I use sleep, and then now I'm never more than 6 seconds away from an ability, right?
Right.
I always have an ability close by. Then the next step is I'm holding on to sleep, because sleep is more defensive by nature. And then the next step is I'm holding on to both. Unless you have like a really good opportunity for it. You're just holding on to both for them to come and get on top of you, right? So if they're on like a full dive and they're on top of you all the time, you're probably holding on to both your abilities pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Well, we got like a few minutes, so I'm going to quickly zoom through all of this, and you'll get the more details and notes. But
Okay.
abilities, probably like a higher end of a medium to a lower end of a medium high, right? Decent bit of stuff to cover in there.
Uh huh.
Ult usage, I only saw like one. So we didn't get, we didn't have too much time to cover it, but the one I saw was pretty decent, so maybe it'll come up in the future. But for the moment, it's a low priority.
Yeah.
Mechanics, general mechanics, pretty great. Other things within mechanics, like watch your reloads, right? Reload when you get the chance.
Hmm.
Trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, I don't know if there's really too much else to be talked about within general mechanics. I mean, there's like ability mechanics, but that's kind of separate category.
Right.
So overall, I'd say that's lower, low to medium, lower end of things. Positioning. Make sure to check off as many boxes as you can. Right. Make sure good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure you're taking high grounds. High grounds are great. Make sure you have an escape route. If you're there on divey stuff, being with your team is going to be really handy for
Hmm.
defense. Think about, can you line of sight the enemy team? Do you have an off angle, can you land your abilities from where you're at, right? Things like that.
Right.
Overall, probably like a medium, maybe a medium high.
Okay.
Then finally comes awareness. Awareness, pay attention to your cooldowns, pay attention
Yes.
to what team comp are you on. We talked a lot about that, right? Team comp
Hmm.
dictates playstyle. Press your tab, look at what they're on. Pay attention to those flankers, so that you're not getting caught off guard. Watch like the Doom ult. Keep your eyes and
Hmm.
ears open, right? So you're not getting caught off guard. And like all the other odds and ends within awareness.
Right.
Overall, that one's probably also around like a medium or so. So to put that all in order, probably say number 1 is ability usage, number 2 is positioning, number 3 is awareness, number 4 and 5 you can kind of like combo into just mechanics and ult usage, not really too big of an issue for the moment. And then
Uh
also we
huh.
did talk about survivability, but survivability is kind of tied into the like awareness positioning probably,
Right.
and
Yeah.
even ability usage too, right? So it's kind of
Right.
split between those three, I'd say. All right.
Okay.
Any final questions?
Um, None that we could cover quickly.
All right. Cool.
um, yeah, that was awesome.
Cool. Well, I will stop the recording now. I